Hello to everyone listening to this podcast all around the world. And of course, to the few who are watching this on YouTube, watching the video of this podcast, hello to you too. In this episode of this podcast, I'll be talking about history, as always, and particularly on this war between the Igorot tribes and the Spaniards in the 1600s. This is called the Igorot Revolt. But I won't be calling it that. I wouldn't even consider it a revolt. Because I'll be telling you the reason later on. So let's start discussing the story while drinking coffee. So when we look at our history, our Philippine history in the earlier days, during the Spanish times, what we always see is the struggle of Filipinos in the lowlands, right? In the Tagalog region, Pangasinan, those places. And most of the time, or let's just say it is safe to say, that the history of Philippine Revolution, or the recorded history of Philippine Revolution, is the history of the Tagalog Revolt, right? The likes of Emilio Aguinaldo, Gregorio del Pilar, those are heroes. Most of them are Tagalog. And what is being shown in the history book are their struggles in attaining our independence. While I'm not accusing historians of filtering data to record in the history books or in the books of history, and I'm in my strongest stance that these unknown stories, like stories of Igorots in the Battle of Caloocan, which we talked about on my previous podcast, must be known and be taught in schools as part of the history of our country. Well, one of the reason we don't give much attention to this is history sometimes is the overlooked subject in our schools. And this is chance to share these stories to our people. Thanks to the advanced technology, now we can easily research the stories. And I took advantage of this privilege of the availability of data, because if there's no internet, I might not know these things also. So I took time to research these things and share it in this podcast. So one of the seldom heard stories or history of Filipino struggle against the Spaniard is the Igorot Revolt, also called as the La Revuelto del Igorot. And like I said a while ago, to clarify, the term revolt, in my opinion here, is wrong, as based on my research, the Igorots never conquered the Igorot country. Now, for the sake of this of the conversation, I would be calling the Igorot territory during that time as the Igorot country. And although I'll be using the revolt for the remaining of the podcast, I'd just like to clarify that I do not see it as a revolt. Okay? Like when we say revolt, one must have conquered you already, and you are refusing to be conquered. And then, based on my research, The reason for this war is that the Spaniards were trying to conquer them. So it's like they repelled the Spaniards in conquering the Igorot country. Before we talk about revolt, we must remember that subjugation by Spanish comes in many ways during the olden times. So the first and most of the times bloodless technique that they employ, the Spaniards employ, is the use of religion. When the Filipino was convinced to convert to Catholicism, then a lot of things will change. So in the conversion of natives into Catholicism, a lot of things, they do a lot of things like first is instilling fear to the natives, like you are worshiping a false god, and if you're worshiping that kind of god and not worshiping the real god, you would be burned by an eternal flame. And the way the priest would teach this is they will create a fire, and then I read an account that they will create a fire, and then I just throw an animal, live animal, in that fire, and I watch it burn. Let the Filipinos watch the animal burn, and then we'll tell them that in hell, that will be eternal, that you will be burned eternally if you will not convert to Catholicism. Of course, you instill fear to people, then of course they will follow that. So that's one of the ways that I read that friars or the priest during those times do to convince Filipinos to convert to Catholicism. Like I said, when you converted into Catholicism, then of course your way of life will change. Spaniards will say that you are not allowed to do this because that is the pagan way, and you have to do this. This is the Christian way. Your way of living, giving things, you have to respect this because, we are the servants of God, things like that. A lot of things will change once you change your religion, way of life. And then after that, what they do is they create this place like the Intramuros of Manila. They will create a walled place wherein all the Christianized natives will stay, of course, under the management of the priest. And of course, that village will grow from generation to generation, year per year. That place will grow, and as time goes by, the way of life of those people will change. Sooner or later, that brown person will be speaking in Spanish and doing things to endear these Spanish captors that he didn't know have subjugated them. So that is one of the, let's just say, bloodless way of converting or subjugating people or conquering people. That's one of the technique that the Spanish employed during their times. Another way, of course, is through the bloody war, which they tried to employ with Lapu-Lapu, the first time they came here to the Philippines. Okay. And since we already know that during that time, the weaponry of the Filipinos is so not on par with the superior weapons of the Spaniards, and of course 8 out of 10 battles, let's just say 9 out of 10 battles, the Filipinos will lose and they will be conquered. And once they were conquered, they have to obey what their conquerors are telling them until such time that they are converted and again to Catholicism, and then finding themselves later on dressing as the Spanish people, speaking Spanish again, becoming as brown Spanish. Third one is kind of related to the first one of using religion. It's the brainwashing or changing the thinking of natives, right? Like I said a while ago. So you try to show this what the Spanish do during those times, that they'll try to show that their way of life is better than the way that these natives are living. They have them a taste of goodness in the way that Spanish live, and then again, when people will realize, when the natives were brainwashed, they will think that, oh my goodness, the way we are living is so difficult, it's so not good, and we have to follow these people if we want to live good, to follow this people that teach us the way of a better life. And then of course they will become now the number one defender of their conquerors. Those are just one, or let's just say three, of the many ways that the Spanish conquered the Philippines like 100 years ago. So going back to the Igorot quote-unquote revolt. So this is according to my research, is that the Spanish saw the Igorots' way of living and decided that it was very barbaric, and of course in their mind they thought that it is their spiritual duty to Christianize the barbaric people. That's the first thing, right? And when we look at the time Ferdinand Magellan came to the Philippines and landed in Cebu City, in the area of Visayas, the first thing that they did is to Christianize people, right? Because they thought, I'm not really sure about that spiritual or moral responsibility, if that's what they're thinking, but it is once that the people follow your religion, and this is just my opinion, once the people follow your religion, of course you will be subjected to them, and you'll be following whatever they're saying. Easiest way of conquering without war, right? So when they saw the Igorots, they decided that they are very barbaric people and they need to be Christianized. And let's just say maybe they're thinking to themselves that it is their spiritual duty to Christianize them. But why did I say that? That is not their real motive. If we are going to read this research of, I have some research here from someone of, I cannot remember the title, but it is The Igorots as Others. That's the title, I think, of the paper. Igorots as Others. You will see some of the accounts of the Spaniards, the accounts that they made about the Igorots, and you would not really think that the bottom line of all the accounts they wrote about Igorots during those times is that you can see that they who wrote those accounts think that they are of a different level of human. That the Igorots are like akin to an animal of sort. Let's just say all of their accounts will say that Igorots are subhuman. Not directly saying that, but that is the tone of their writings. Sponsor time. So this podcast is brought to you by Dems Auto Performance. Dems Auto Performance Shop offers automotive servicing, Nag-repair sila ng kahit anong klase ng sasakyan. Wag lang eroplano, located at Alapang, Trinidad, Benguet. Of course, they also offer off-road servicing. Sa mga naglalaro ng off-road, gustong pa-convert ang sasakyan sa off-road, you can visit Dems Auto Performance at Alapang, Trinidad, Benguet. Or you can also visit their Facebook page, Dems Auto Performance. Right? So, maybe Spaniards, let's just say, Spaniards maybe really want to Christianize them, but there's a hidden motive as to why they want to Christianize the Igorots. One of that is the fact that in the early days, the Igorot land or the Igorot country has a vast deposit of gold. Until now, we can say that Cordillera is the vast deposit of gold, as evident by the big mining companies here in the Igorot land. We have the Felix Mining Company. We already have the Lipanto Mining Company. There are a lot of mining firms here in the land of the Igorots. And that would be the more believable reason why they want to Christianize the Igorots, for an easier access to that gold reserve. Now, because it's very difficult to conduct business with the Igorots, and of course, taking the gold from them is easier when they're subjugated. Hence the reason why they're interested, and they directed their attention towards the Christianizing, or towards the Igorot country, with the guise of Christianizing or Christianism. Right? Now, I have nothing against Christianism. I am a Christian myself, but looking back at history, this is what I see as the reason for them turning their attention to the Igorot land. It is also important to note, as proven by the accounts of travelers, that they really thought of Igorots as subhuman, right? This is what I'm talking a while back, that most of the accounts from white people who came to see or who have encountered Igorots would say that they're of a different human species. They're more of an animal, things like that. And I want to say there's an account that of I don't know the name, I forgot the name, but there's an account that he and his Tagalog slave were traveling through the mountains, and they met this Igorot, and they scared him away, and they took 3 jars that he was carrying. And then, because they were traveling, they were so hungry, they opened the jar and they tried to see what's inside, and they saw there are some foods. And then when they opened one jar, they took out the content, and they took out a human hand. It was already cooked accordingly. Now, whether this story is true or this is one of the technique of the Igorots to scare the foreigners, we don't know. But they made it. They imply that Igorots practice or do cannibalism. Now, I'm an Igorot, and though I cannot say that I did an extensive research about my culture, I would say that Igorots have never practiced cannibalism. Now, those are one of the unbelievable accounts that these white people have done or created. It was published and it was distributed throughout the world. That has marred the image of Igorot that is until now. When you it's the same. When you hear the word Igorot, it sometimes paint a different picture to the mind of those who are hearing it. Now, another account that was written, which is presented in the paper Igorots as others, is that one account is a woman, an Igorot woman, accordingly confessed to this writer that they have sex with monkeys just to satisfy their lust. And a modern man who would be reading this will find this one as absurd. Okay? And, during those times when people believe what they're reading because it was written by someone who was in that area, they will easily believe this. And that painted another picture, like I said, that Igorots are subhuman. One of the statement also, again, just to add it here, is that when this writer is observing the way the Igorots practice their beliefs and their way of living, this writer labeled it as an aberration of intelligence. So with all those accounts written, if you really think that you need to Christianize these people, you wouldn't write such things, right? Because you think that those or these people are just your equal, but they just don't know God yet. That would be one of the things. I mean, that would be the one that will come to your mind when you want to Christianize a person. But since reading these accounts and then looking at the first reason why they want to go to the Igorot land is to Christianize, and then looking at these accounts right here, I would not be inclined to believe that they really want to Christianize the Igorots. They want to subjugate the Igorots. That's the reason why they want to Christianize them. They want them to be one of their slaves. Is it? Now, as to the accounts of a lot of people, this was also as relayed to them by the people of the lowlands, or the Philippines that were already subjugated by the Spanish, is that there are a lot of people coming from the mountains. They dress differently, they have their tattoos, and they try to do business with us, like barter system. They trade with us, and they have different ornaments or jewelry that is made of gold. So this account was related to the Spanish, and when they tried to see it for themselves, they saw that these people from the mountains, or from the Igorot, which is the Spanish for mountain, and E means people from the mountain. So Igorot means people from the mountain who are coming down and trading with this lowland people. When they saw them, they really saw that they have golds in their bodies, like earrings, necklaces, things like that. So this made them have their interest turn to the mountains, trying to conquer that mountain. But they, for the long time, they have difficulties conquering the mountains of the Igorot country, for the reason that the Igorots are very secretive of their place. They wouldn't tell people where they come from. They would just point to the mountains, but they will not really tell the people exactly where they are living. And apparently there's a reason for that. And when they ask them, sometimes the Igorot person will act stupid and act that he does not understand what they're saying, things like that. And the reason for that one is apparently when someone among them will tell the place where they're living, that person will get killed. And that shows that during the earlier days, the Igorots are very territorial. They don't like other people, encroaching their territory. But the thing is that during the American times, they were so very welcoming of the Americans now, for the reason for whatever reason, or if you want to know the reason, we'll be talking about that on the next podcast. But for now, that is the scenario. The Igorots are very secretive of their place during the 1500s. They would not like to show their place to the people in the lowlands, especially to the Spaniards. Now, in the 1601, we have this friar named Esteban Marin, Spanish priest. Now, Esteban Marin is a very intelligent priest. He stayed in he stayed in Pampanga. He is instrumental in pacifications or in Christianizing the people of Pampanga. So he mastered the Tagalog language, and then later on he moved to Ilocos during the 1580s. And during his stay in the Ilocos region, he mastered the Ilocano language. So he was very adept in Ilocano language, and I think he even wrote dictionaries on language of Ilocano and Zambal. And he even mastered some of the Igorot languages. Now, in the Igorot country, there are a lot of language. Now, we don't know what language he mastered or he learned, what Igorot language he learned, but he was a very intelligent man. He was able to manage to learn different language of the natives, right? So, this Esteban Marin is a friar who, has been tasked with the mission of Christianizing the Filipinos. So, Marin is no stranger to Igorots, as he had previous encounters with them when he was in the Ilocos region. Now, take note that Igorots are doing their trades with the Ilocanos or the Ilocos. So, that's how Marin had encountered the Igorots, right? Now, so with the story here, with the backdrop here, that these people look at the Igorots as subhumans, and they heard about the gold in the Cordillera regions, try to own it, and they can own it by subjugating the people living at that place. So they ordered an expedition to go to This podcast is brought to you by Millennial Tech. Millennial Tech could ma-repair the printer, ma-install the CCTV, repair the cellular phone, computer, and other electrical appliances. For more information, mabali na ibisita nyo da ida at Kubo Building, Proper Abatan, Bugyas, Benguet, or you can contact them through their cell phone number 0910-255-0382, or you can visit their Facebook page, Millennial Tech. The Igorot country, right? Now, it's very important also to note here that During those times, the people of lowlands and the people of the mountains or the Igorots are having communications with people. I mean, having communications with each other. So, let's say, for example, take example of the um, communications the Igorots have with Kapulo, right? Um, Kapulo is the son of Lakandula. Now, everybody in the Philippines knows Lakandula. Lakandula is the dato of Tondo. Now, there is an account that people of the mountains are friends with Kapulo, the son of that leader of Tondo. So, Igorots are not what do you call this one? They they are friendly to their neighbors, but they want to see if your intentions in befriending them is really pure, right? So during those times, because Capolo is under the Spanish rule now, they used him to um, negotiate with the leaders of the highlands or the leaders of the Igorot country. And Capullo, according to some historians, is a very good negotiator. So, of course, he befriended these Igorots and he talked with them, and he was able to manage to get tax from them. The tax is paid in gold. That's the reason why the interest of the Spaniards peaked even higher, because when they give their share of their tax or their tax to the Spaniard government, they pay it in gold. That's why. Now, for some unknown reason, Capullo and the relationship of Capullo with the Igorot gets soured, and there was also an account that the last time Capullo visited the Igorots, they hit him in the head, in the face, and that the injury was so deadly that Capullo almost died because of the injury. Now, because of this reason, they sent this priest going back to Marine. So they sent Marine, and some of the techniques that they did, because they cannot penetrate the territory of the Igorots, is that they will capture Igorots who are trading and make them their slaves. Another way is that those people from the lowlands who are already conquered are being used against the Igorots to kill the Igorots. They use them as soldiers to attack the Igorots. That's what they did. Now, and when they capture Igorots, they will also make them slaves. And the Igorots didn't react for a long time, until such time that this priest Marine was sent. So because of his experience, like what we said a while ago, that Esteban Marine is an expert of the different language of the area. So that's the reason why he was sent. And according to this text here, Marine journeyed from Japan armed with nothing but cross and accompanied by a lone servant. Though he was deemed inspirational by other friars who soon followed his footsteps, the fate that befell Marine was actually tragic. Initially, he was able to gain friendship of the Igorot. While preaching about Christianity and the need to pledge allegiance to the Spanish crown, Marine was ensnared by the Igorot warriors and tied to a tree. He was then shot with arrows several times, and it is also said that after he was hanged, the warriors even went on as to decapitate Marine and burn his corpse. His servant met an unfortunate event as well. So the priest, this intelligent priest who was sent to Christianize the Igorots, was killed. Apparently, the Igorots don't like to be told that the god they're worshipping is not the real god, and that killed the priest. Now, because of this, now this priest is a high-profile one. It's a very big loss for them because he's a great asset to the Spanish government because he can speak the different language of the country, or of Luzon. Let's just say Northern Luzon. And because of that, because of his death, the Spanish sent soldiers. So Lieutenant Mateo de Aranda led the infantry comprised of Spaniards. So because of the death of Marine, the Spanish sent the soldiers led by Mateo Aranda. And the composition of this army is Spaniards and, of course, they're subjugated people of the lowland that came from Pampanga. These natives from Pampanga also, we cannot say they volunteered. Let's just say they have no choice because they're subjugated. Came to attack the Igorots. But, of course, that mission also failed. And, they retreated because, of course, they failed, right? Now, because of this attacks happening, the Igorots, an estimated 3,000 warriors, attacked them in Carvalho Mountain. Now this, because a lot of people think that this Igorot revolt happened in the mountains of Cordillera. No, it happened in Carvalho in Pantabangan, right? So the Igorots then had enough and they decided to attack. And according to historians, and I wouldn't think there's 3,000 of them, let's just say 1,000 maybe, or half of that number. According to the historians, 3,000 warriors descended upon them, prompting some from Aranda's side to flee out of fear. They got scared because of the numbers, and two incidents brought about the realization that the mountains were rather impenetrable and that the Igorots should be left alone. Native soldiers from Ilocos and Pampanga soon stopped engaging with the Igorot, and only a couple of Dominican friars from Manaoag and Pangasinan and Agustinian friars from Ilocos continued their evangelizations in the mountains of Cordillera and Carvalho. There had been a number of missions that were established in Cordillera, but all of this were eventually destroyed by the Igorots. So it just showed, like I said, that when these warriors, Igorot warriors, attacked them, this showed how brave they are, and that it also showed that the Spanish cannot attack them in the mountains because the mountains is at their home and they know it like the back of their hand. And this also made the native soldiers from Ilocos and Pampanga stop helping those Spanish people. Okay. Nevertheless, this evangelization project of the Spaniards continued. Still, they are eventually destroyed by the Igorots. Right? Now, you might be wondering what made them, how did the Igorots win? If, just picture this. Spaniard soldiers long time ago wear a metal helmet and a metal armor, and they are armed with rifles or guns. not a very high-tech gun like the gun we have now, but still, as compared to the Igorot warrior, an Igorot warrior only has a spear, a shield, and a machete, or let's just say a cutting implement, and he's only wearing G-string. Aside from the tattoos from his body, that's the only thing that he has. Now, how did they win against the Spaniards? Now, the reason for that one is they have they employed what we call the retreat or feigned retreat, wherein what they do during the battle is that they pretend that they are losing the battle, and then they will move back. So they will retreat, and the enemy will run after them. And of course, they will retreat until they will go to a place where they have company with them, hiding behind the trees, and then they will lead those their enemies to that area, and that's the time that when they reach the area, they will fight back. And that tactic was very effective, that they can decimate the entire army that is following them. There are a lot of accounts like that, wherein some accounts saying that he watched his comrades head fall off, and he saw one warrior drink the blood oozing from the head that he just decapitated. Now, that is a very graphic description, but that's why the rating for this podcast is E, which means it is explicit. That means I do curse sometimes, and I do explain graphic descriptions at times, like this one. Now, they also would do the guerrilla tactic, like after the engagement, or after the big clash with the enemy, regardless of the result, they will secretly follow those army moving or going home, and then they will attack on the time least expected by these enemies. So there are accounts that Spaniards, or the soldiers from the Spanish army, when walking in the jungle, got so tired just thinking when some of the enemy will attack, and just after engaging, and then the enemy will disappear, and then while they were walking, they got so tired of just thinking when the enemy will attack that one of them fainted. Those are some of the accounts I read in an old book. So, because of this military hardship that they experienced, it's the reason why they did not push through conquering the entire Igorot area. Though there are some areas in the Igorot country that was conquered. Let's take the part of the Cervantes Ilocos and the area of Lepanto. Still a very small part of the Igorot country. And if that area was conquered, the Igorots will just move inwards in the mountains, in the forest, and will leave that place, leaving the Spaniards in that area alone with their servants, of course. So that is the reason why a while back I was saying that this is not a revolt. This is, let's just say, this is a war which was won by the Igorots through their wit, even though they have a very low-tech weapon, crude weapon, they still manage.
This podcast is brought to you by Millennial TECH. Millennial TECH could ma-repair the printer, man-install the CCTV, repair the cellular phone, computer, and other electrical appliances. For more information, mabali na ibisita nyo da ida at Kubo Building, Proper Abatan, Bugyas, Benguet, or you can contact them through their cell phone number 0910-255-0382, or you can visit their Facebook page, Millennial TECH.
Manage to defeat a more powerful army. Now, this story can be read in the book of Mario Alvaro Limos, The Untold Story of Igorots Revolt. Again, I would not say this is a revolt. Another one is a kasaysayan ng Pinas, Aklasan ng mga Igorot. Though this is very short, the account here is very short that I have to, research for 5 days to compile at least complete picture of this story, right? Now, that's the reason why for 350 years the Spaniards have never completely conquered the Igorot country. The Igorot country was the only place that they never, let's say, completely conquered, and they just gave up. They just gave up on it. I think they saw that the damages incurred is not, I cannot be paid by what they will be gaining if they are going to conquer the land.
This podcast is brought to you by CarlTech Repairs. CarlTech Repair kat ma-repair si cellphone, tablet, kan laptop. Mapa software man ti problema na data or hardware, kayang-kayan ti CarlTech Repairs. CarlTech Repair kat masarakan ni stall number 113, second floor of Old Public Market, KM5 La Trinidad, Benguet, or you can contact them at 0910-702-1930 or in their telephone number 074-424-0701. That is CarlTech Repairs.
It's one of the reasons why. And if we are going to continue reading through history, we would see that Americans have more success in subjugating, let's just say subjugating the Igorots. And the reason is because they did it in a friendly way, and they did it through education. That is the difference. Igorots saw the importance of education, that they need to upgrade their learning. That's the reason why they came close to Americans, as compared to maybe they saw through the facade of religion, religious conversion. They saw that they have an inner motive, they have another angle why they're like forcing you to convert to Catholicism. That is why they repel the Spaniards coming to their place. So this is the story of the Igorot so-called quote-unquote revolt. Let's just call it the Igorot and Spanish War. And I'll be seeing you again on the next episode of the history for our Igorot. See you next time.